Hey friends! Ron Bangle and I are trying to figure out how to go live, and we've accidentally gone live a couple times already, and
I think we're live.
I think we're live.
All right.
Okay, this time we won't panic and shut it off.
All right.
All right. Happy Saturday.
We're crooked though.
Yeah.
But
we're new at this, so
I think we'll just go.
We're gonna figure it out.
There.
Okay.
It's better to tilt to the right. We're Republican state.
Okay. Okay. So, hey, we're committed to our message at Empowered Senior Seminar. Ron was just on the Empowering Seniors television show. Has that one aired?
I believe it did. Yeah,
Okay.
the 20th.
Okay.
Yes, it did.
So you were on that last episode that just aired, and you were on our seminar this month.
Right.
So that was fantastic. And so Ron has got me started on putting out our first lab. Oh, and it says, oh, we're back. Okay. So we're doing our first lab for Empowered Senior. A lab is a small group workshop that we're going to be doing throughout the year. This is our first one. It's going to be on flipping the money switch. And we couldn't have timed this workshop better with the mayhem in the market and all the talk out there about the coronavirus and people trying to figure out what's going to maybe happen. And so we think that coming to the workshop is going to be really good.
I absolutely agree. It's just great timing to do this as a follow-up to the seminar that we had at Botanica. What was that, 2 weeks ago? Mm-hmm. And got good attendance that's coming so far. It is limited seating, but we will talk about not just the coronavirus, of course, in the markets, but we'll talk about a lot of the stressors that are on the markets that are causing this correction that we're going through now. It's not really time to think in terms of dire straits. It's really just a time to kind of reassess where you're at with your funds. So,
okay.
Yeah.
So it could be a little bit of a wake-up call that this is a good time to take a look at your whole entire money situation, your investments, and be thinking about your future.
The markets have been tremendous since 2009, and especially last year, just an amazing year. And so if you look at the correction that we've had now, it's just really kind of resetting. We really hope that the coronavirus and the impact on the economy and globally and domestically, that it's not as severe as some are saying. Mm-hmm. But it is something to take seriously, certainly, so.
So there's been things in the news before, let's think Y2K and things before that, but Y2K was a biggie. We thought we were going to lose everything.
Right.
And then we've had all kinds of different scares. 2008, that was a for real scare that did impact us terribly.
Right. Certainly.
And but there's been many things since then where it seemed like there's a lot of buzz in the media, and there's should we be worried? And it looks like this. I mean, nobody has a crystal ball.
Right, and I think too, to think in terms of why we are where we are today, the market is still very robust. Mm-hmm. The economy that drives the market, and so there's a lot of really good things. And maybe we're overvalued, a bit. So maybe part of this correction, if that's all it is, will be a really healthy thing and a time to re-enter the market, of course. But I think it's a wait and see attitude. But it's certainly not a time to take your money and run. It's a time, I believe, to really reassess where you're at, work with your advisor, talk about a strategic plan, making good decisions on your funds. Not just if you're a pre-retiree or retiree, but really anyone that's invested in the market.
So our concern in working with seniors and having the Empowering Seniors television show and the Empowered Senior series is that when people are nearing retirement or in retirement, that affects them greatly when there are market changes. And
right.
You were talking to me earlier that 2008 we experienced a lost decade.
Right.
And when you're in your 70s, you can't really afford a lost decade.
Right. I think when we retire, we're retiring into a window of time. And when we think of the markets, we think of kind of a march to infinity. But the realities are, you really need to have your investments tell you how old you are and be appropriate for your age and for your timeline. So there's a lot that really every advisor should do, certainly a fiduciary advisor should do in determining if it's suitable and then matching your investments with your aversion to risk, with your timeline, all of those parameters to really make sure that your plan will see you through that time. And we're really talking in terms of income. So switching the money switch is really important when we talk about seniors and how to do that so that they can sleep and not worry so much when there is a correction or when there's a downturn like this. So, yeah.
So, and you were telling me some people have lost money or feel like they've lost money. They've seen their nest egg go down a little.
Sure.
And some more than others just because of how they have their money invested.
Yeah, and I mean, we talk in terms of pure money management. There's a lot of things that an advisor like myself can do, of course, but the main thing I think is just to be matched with what your risk tolerance is. Make sure you're diversified and that you're working with your advisor in times just like this. Make sure you have a relationship with that advisor where you can either be reassured or you can make some real changes to your portfolio. But it's not just a one-time event. It's a concern. Don't get me wrong, but I think you have to keep really in terms of the size of the loss that we've had as compared to what the markets have done, say since January 1st of 2017. Even if you look at the low point that we closed at this week compared to what we had then, we've had a 25% gain since January 1 of 2017. So that's pretty good year over year. Overall, that's a pretty nice return. I mean, I think I'd take that year after year, about a 7%, I think it is, that you would have. So, the markets have been a great place to build wealth. Just like real estate, your field has been a fantastic place over a lifetime to build wealth. And so it's just good to work with your advisor and have a good conversation about what's going on now with the markets. So.
Okay, so I'm going to hit you with some questions.
Sure.
So what if the coronavirus or the supply chain in China and around the world really impacts our local business and impacts our investments? And that's what people are really worried about. Is it too late for people to make changes or to evaluate and make changes?
No, it's not too late. I mean, I think you really have to be guarded when you talk about events like this and talking about the general public and even the statements that I would make, for example. The realities are, this could be significant. We hope, and I'm not an expert, I'm just a layperson, but we hope that it's seasonal, like the cold and flu season, that we get ahead of it, that we're able to, and so how it affects our economy overall, certainly it could be devastating, but I just don't think we can go gloom and doom and think of it that way. We don't want to take it lightly. I don't think our administration is taking it lightly today with the news that we've had this morning, but overall it's just really a call to action to make sure that you're, regarding finances, working with your advisor and have a plan in place and then be matched to what your timeline is for those funds. And so it's certainly not a time to panic, but maybe it is a time to reevaluate.
And you were saying that maybe some people are a little too cavalier, that they're not at all worried, which is good, and we hope that no one has reason to really be worried. But it is something to really evaluate and pay attention to and take a look, what if something happens now or someday in the future and we are nearing retirement or we're in retirement, what can we do to protect what we have so we're not completely devastated?
Well, and one of the things I do with my clients is as we get older, you want to move away from equities a little bit, or at least on balance, depending on what your aversion is to risk, into instruments that maybe would preserve that principle, some that you've built up over a lifetime. You just don't have the time to recover. And so those are things that you talk about, certainly with those that are 50 and up, those that have built a sizable nest egg, to try and make sure that it's going to see you through. Not just see you through, if we're thinking in terms of a husband and wife unit, not just for the husband's mortality, but also for the spouse, female spouse. Many times will live considerably longer than her husband. So we want to make sure that we're looking out for her best interest as well. And there's ways to do that. So.
Because many married couples, not all, but many married couples, the wife is younger, just naturally younger. My husband and I have been married over 30 years, and I'm 6 years younger than he is. And then if women do outlive a man by a certain number of years, you've got the difference in age between spouses, and then maybe the expectation that you might live longer as a woman, and so you're talking about a significant gap.
Absolutely, yeah. And we address this, and really any good advisor will talk about these very issues with you and work with you on how to address that and to make sure you have some income. And really the key is income. Flipping the money switch for me means how to turn on that income so that you have a guaranteed income for life. And there's ways to accomplish that. So.
Okay. Well, and then of course in real estate, we have experienced many times, my husband and I have helped women in particular sell their last home, and sometimes that's the only money they have at all in the world is the equity that they get out of that house.
Right.
Sometimes it's free and clear, and sometimes it's not. And that I think would be really important to take a look at the funds that come out of the house and make sure that you are investing it in the smartest way possible.
Right, yeah. Exactly, and that's an age when you want to be a little bit conservative because again of that timeline, we keep going back to that, but it's so true for those in that age bracket. So.
And then there are legal considerations, and so in the workshop we're going to have you talking about a number of things, and then we have Kari Coultis with Coultis Law that's going to be addressing a lot of things related to retirement and legacy and all of that.
Oh, absolutely. And I mean, I'm not a professional tax advisor or an attorney whatsoever. That's why we're blessed to have someone like Kari in her office. Sarah also come in and talk at the workshop and talk about what they do. They specialize in elder care, in estate planning, and also special needs. So she's really an excellent attorney in her field, and we're blessed to be able to partner with her, have her at the workshop to answer questions, and then if there's those that would have an interest further to set an initial consultation. So we're really feeling like we bring some value to the seminar. We're excited about that. I think
it's free.
Yeah, and I thank you for hosting this and for the work that you do. It's really exciting.
You're providing the space for us, so.
Yeah.
That's terrific. So the workshop's going to be at the corner of 21st and Ridge Road at the Extension office. It'll be this Thursday, 2 to 4 p.m. We have limited seating, and about 2/3 of the seats are already spoken for. So if you know someone that might benefit from going to this, I would even suggest people think about taking off work. I think it's that important to get that kind of education information in a 2-hour period. That'd be really good. So a lot of our empowered seniors that are retired and available on a Thursday afternoon, they can make it. But I'd say that if you know someone, or if you are someone that's working during the day, you might think about taking off, because we're putting together a really powerful session. And if you can't come this time, you're welcome to reach out to us in this thread, or reach out to us directly to have questions answered. Or let us know that you would like us to repeat this workshop, because if it's something that people find beneficial, we're happy to do that.
Yeah, and even if you are unable to have your husband come attend with you, one of the workshops I'd like to do in the future is empowering women. But women are so instrumental in the decisions, not just for retirement, but changing a principal residence, downsizing, whatever. And so it's really important to just go ahead and come to the seminar and take a look, see if it can be a resource for you. And that's really what we're trying to provide. Is you may have an advisor you're already working with. It's great, though, I believe, to get a second opinion, whether it's a real estate transaction or your finances.
Well, you told me something really great that makes it it's a very succinct way to say it. You can't get a second opinion from the person that gave you the first opinion.
Right.
So we say that if you're going to list your home, even if you already know who your realtor is going to be, my husband Randy and I are happy to give a second or third opinion, because there's always value in being resourceful and gathering information. And we know that it's beneficial to us. It's never a waste of our time to go meet with someone, because we learn something from every appointment, and we're always happy to see the inside of people's homes, because it educates us on our market. The more homes we're in, the more people we meet, the better off we are. It's so often we will see a home, and then coincidentally we'll get an opportunity to list a home or show a home on the same street. It's just, that's the way the universe works, I think.
Right.
So it helps us to be able to get into more houses. And sometimes we might have a buyer, or we might be the buyer on a house, and so it's always good to have us in and get an opinion.
Right.
And maybe they'll call us next time or refer us to someone that they think we're a match for. So it's never a waste of time. We always like to do that. But so for people that have tuned in or that might be watching later, let's give them a few tips that we can share that might be helpful for them just for watching. So what are some of the bullet point ideas that you might have to share? If you can think about some of the things that we talked about on the TV show and on the panel,
Right.
that might be helpful.
Well, and to promote Kari a little bit here, it's so vitally important to have in place a plan, not necessarily to avoid probate, but to make sure that you have a will. If you don't have a will, there's one that the state writes for you. So that's really important. So if you've been married before and then remarried, there's a lot of considerations there. If you have elderly parents or you yourself need some things done, general durable power of attorney, all the things that she does. So again, to be able to have the resource to be able to bring in and work in concert with somebody like Kari Coultis is just tremendously valuable. I have a tool that I use called the portfolio analysis, and it's a way for us to take a look at your statements, kind of run some really good software and some really good reports on how your performance has been on your investments as compared to really what your risk tolerances are and all those things. So really, again, not just a second opinion on like, yeah, you should change something, but really get into the nuts and bolts of why and kind of is it performing the way it should be and those type things. Again, in concert with where they're at as far as the risk and so forth. So.
Well, adult kids want to be aware of what a plan is too, because we were talking about some different clients that we know, and Dale Earnhardt Jr., you mentioned that.
Right.
So tell us the Dale Earnhardt Jr. story.
I don't know that I know the whole story, except Senior had been married, and I think it was his third wife. I think this is all public record. It was just a really good example on a legacy. And what had happened was the plan that he had in place, the way it was set up didn't necessarily pass down to Junior the way it should. So he lost some proprietary rights regarding his branding and his name because they didn't do some planning together. Again, in concert with the family, with the business enterprise, and then with this third wife. So it is very important if you've married and then remarried to make sure if you have a business interest or even just with your inheritance. And again, I'm not an attorney. That's why we have someone that we can go to. But it's just good to look at these type things when we're doing planning.
Right.
And I think the most important for those that are perhaps watching today that might be considering coming is, it's really good to arm yourself with resources and knowledge with other professionals to really help you be able to make good, wise decisions in these, I think, great years as we think in terms of retirement. Many of us will be retired once we do for a long period of time, God willing, with good health and so forth. So we want to make sure that the things that we're putting in place today will really be able to serve us for a long time and those that we love.
Yeah, so that we're protecting ourselves, we're protecting our loved ones the way we really want it to be, because there's unintended consequences to allowing the state to be who wrote your will, or unintended consequences to the way your trust is currently or your will is currently. And you want to dig into that a little bit, because we also know local people where maybe a son, has an example, was cut out of the family's business because of how the will worked.
Right.
Especially if there's an unexpected death. And, maybe stepmom ends up in control of the business, and the son that was really running it ends up with nothing,
Right.
and has to just leave the business and go start their life completely over. And that probably wasn't Dad's intention.
Right.
And so things need to be set up correctly, because you can't trust people to behave the way they should behave when money's involved.
No, and life just happens. I mean, a lot of times it gets away from us, time gets away from us, and we just don't do the things that we ought to do regarding these types of issues. And it can become problematic, certainly later after the fact, for your family and for your loved ones, even for your business. I work with business owners as well on a surviving business partner and how to structure some of that. The funding part of that comes from life insurance. Sometimes don't talk about life insurance enough. It's still a very important vehicle to provide immediate liquidity. Most investments take time to mature over time. Life insurance matures with the passing of an event. Immediately it can fund a buy-sell agreement with a business partner, or it can go ahead and fund plans for your kids, for your spouse, to be able to keep you in the same world. So life insurance is extremely important because it provides liquidity at the time of death. And you're paying for that oftentimes with pennies on the dollar compared with selling your estate or doing it dollar for dollar out of your proceeds at that point in life. So
what are some of the things that you're going to dive deeper in at the seminar during
Right.
the portion.
Yep, the module that I have on the PowerPoint is called New Generation Planning, Retirement Planning, and it deals with those that are preparing for retirement or those who are in retirement now. So we'll talk in terms of product placement, of income planning. We'll touch lightly on Social Security and how to optimize Social Security if some of those have not made those choices yet. There's just a lot to be done to make sure that you have an optimum strategy to be able to derive the income that you need when you need it, and then also to do so in a safe manner so that it'll be there for you when you need that. So.
That's a big question for a lot of people. When should I start collecting Social Security?
Right.
And there's all different kinds of schools of thought. And I think a lot of times people will just take some advice that might not be the best advice for them.
Right.
And what are your thoughts?
Well, you know, I believe that Social Security will be around for a long time. There's concerns. If you look at your statement, I think it's either 2034 or 35. They're talking about that only 78% will be there, you know, to be paid out at that point. But the realities are, you know, I think we're going to shore that up. There'll be changes, no doubt. And it makes sense not to necessarily, unless health is a factor or some other reasons, to turn it on at 62. Many times it's good to wait till your full retirement age. For most of us, that would be age 66, depending on your age, 66 to 67. And then beyond that, even to defer that out to age 70, it rolls up at about 8% per year. So that's a significant increase out to age 70. So sometimes there's good reasons to use other sources for income and allow that to grow. 8% is pretty darn good right now when we think in terms of safe money. And so if we're going to live a long time, particularly the females that can live a long time into the 90s quite easily now, it might be good to go ahead and defer that for a while, do some other choices that you have within Social Security, and then turn that on at age 70.
Well, and a lot of people are living longer. My father-in-law is 90, and you know, so, and we have a lot of people that are in their hundreds. They've had celebrated their 100th birthday.
Oh yeah.
And, you know, and I talk to seniors all the time that it's kind of sad, but they'll say, I don't know why I'm still here. And so a lot of what we do is kind of pep talks and you know, really planning for an environment that you'll be happier in, because we just don't magically float away like some might hope.
I mean, the hope for us is that, you know, we'll have a good, great retirement, a lot of years, and I see folks in their 80s and 90s that are just out doing things.
Having a ball.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
So that's the key. And I think mental attitude, you know, one of the things you talked about in your seminars is bringing folks in that can talk about mental health at these ages and how to not just live, but how to thrive in those years.
Exactly.
And not long ago, was looking at folks playing pickleball. A lot of those are in their late 70s and early 80s that are out playing pickleball. So it's pretty neat.
Yeah. So we have a menu of services that we call Downsizing Doodle, where we help seniors especially sort, pack, organize, manage the move, get them settled in. And so we're in different senior living communities a lot, and we just had great opportunity to tour the Blue Stem communities in Newton and Heston. And one of my partners, she said, wow, if I would have known how nice things could be, I would have taken better care of myself. And I thought that was such a good point, that if people understood, like if you're a boomer or Gen X, if you can understand that there's a lot of life to live in your 70s and 80s, if you can be so lucky to maintain your health through that.
Oh yeah. And
to be set up so that you can continue to have joy and thrive in your life.
Right.
And that's exactly what you're trying to help people do.
Yeah, I mean, having the grandkids around, you want to enjoy them, you know.
Absolutely.
So it's a lot of fun, yeah.
And have grandkids have good memories. And grandparents really mean so much. Grandparents to grandkids. In fact, that's going to be an upcoming topic of one of our television shows, and I'm sure we'll talk about that in the seminar series. But grandparents have a tremendous opportunity to leave a legacy in the hearts and minds of children, and having time to enjoy each other and do things together is so important.
Yeah, and I think when I talk in terms of leaving a legacy, oftentimes we think in terms of finances, but the reality is it's so much more than that. You had a recent, I think, seminar, or you're working on something regarding just that and how to write your legacy.
Yes.
And I thought that was really neat.
Yeah, so that, because sometimes people aren't paying attention to their elders and hearing the family stories and the family history, and they miss out on that, and then they wake up a couple decades later and wish they would have paid more attention.
Yeah.
And so for seniors to provide that information in a way so that it's there available for them years later, that's great.
Oh, absolutely. And I think too, as we get older, I mean, I'll be 63 this summer, you want to be viable. You want to be current, you want to feel like you're relatable and all of that. So as we move through, and a lot of that's mindset. And I think that's why it's so exciting what you're doing every month down there, bringing in all sorts of different speakers and different vendors and providing resources and all of this good information. And then also with the television show that you produce. So
thank you. Well, there's so many topics, and it is that everything's really overwhelming. I mean, all these topics can be very overwhelming.
Right.
And the mindset can end up being, I don't even want to think about it. I'm going to bed.
Right.
Or, the fight, flight, or freeze is the instinct that we have as humans,
Right.
fight or flight. But there's also freeze, and I see that so often where seniors just kind of freeze in front of old MASH reruns or, old shows, just sitting there watching TV. And I think that that's depression a lot of times.
Oh,
and
I
they
agree.
don't want to participate in some of the newer things that are going on. And they don't want to address the tougher issues that they should, so that they can be happier and have things go better.
Absolutely.
And I saw something yesterday that we tend to think of things are going to be 10 times harder than what they actually are. And so
Kind of like setting up for the live feed.
oh yeah, that was hard. But procrastinate,
Right.
don't do something, and then if we do it, we think, well, that was a lot easier than I thought it was going to be.
Yeah.
And so a lot of times procrastination, we're just putting it off because there's fear attached to that.
That's why we see kids with technology, they just dive right in. When we get older, we're so hesitant because we're afraid we're going to push the wrong button like we did or whatever.
Yeah, we're not hesitant anymore because we're going to learn this.
Right. So you have to dive in and have, I think, that excitement to learn something new, be a lifetime learner, and then do that. And that's why we're doing these workshops. And they won't all be on financial, but finances are part of what we do in driving. That's the driver to be able to allow us to, move about the country, if you will, have the resources to do some of those things. So that's why, for me, that's kind of my wheelhouse, is helping people be able to navigate and do that and do all the things that they hope to do.
Well, and continued lifelong learning is so important to keep that brain active. And it's important that we're not just thinking of old advice like, oh, if I do crossword puzzles, that's going to keep my mind sharp and I won't maybe get dementia. And now they're saying, doing crossword puzzles might not be the best thing.
Right.
But learning to play an instrument, coming to classes and learning about things, you're going to get something new and valuable out of that, and it is really causing connections to happen to keep you a little sharper.
Absolutely. And we're going to hold this event again March 5th, 2 to 4, and you do need to pre-register through your number, right?
Yeah, so call me, and if you don't know my number, just message me and I'll message you back, so just write on the thread.
And we're holding this at the Sedgwick County Extension offices right there at the corner at the zoo. And so it's really amazing, that Sedgwick County Park. When I'm out there walking, I see people, we talk about being active, that we're blessed in this community to have facilities like we have here in Wichita, because there's a lot of folks that get out there and walk and bike and do all those things just right there where we're at. So.
Well, and those would be the folks in the know, because I think there are thousands of people that drive up and down 13th and drive up and down 21st Street, and they don't know how gorgeous that park is. They know it's there.
Right.
And they think they have an idea of what's there, but you really have to get out of your car, on your feet, or on a bike, and go explore all those
nice
walkways to know what's out there.
Beautiful park, beautiful zoo. Yeah,
So, well, Ron, thank you for playing with me on live stream.
It's been fun. It's my first time.
Yay.
So I was nervous, but I really enjoyed this. It's gone well, and hopefully you'll glean some good information and join us at the workshop if you can, and if you can't, we'll have additional workshops certainly.
Yeah, so let us know if you're interested in more workshops, or if you have specific questions for Ron Bangle, myself, Kari Coultis, the attorney that we're working on this workshop with, or just reach out with anything that you might have related to just life in general, certainly any aging issues, because we've got the resources. and we can help direct you to the right people that we would contact. And so we're happy to share that information with you. So thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.
Have a great weekend.
Bye.